Volition have come a long way since the days of the first Saints Row and being branded the GTA clone to the rather excellent Saints Row 2, 3 and even 4 and even Get Out of Hell. The team has decided to kind of make a half step to the side rather than moving forward in any direction with Agents of Mayhem. Agents of Mayhem is a open world game similar to that of the Saints Row games, and it is set in the same universe, except you don't play as the Stillwater Saints, and the game actually takes place in Seoul, South Korea. And what feels like something that may be in a completely new direction, the more you play of it, the more you realize it's very similar to games from that developer from the past. The major difference is the style, in the sense that the game is delivered in Saturday morning cartoon cutscenes, and it introduces a bunch of sort of more heroes or superpower people rather than a bunch of gangsters, let's say. And while these characters are diverse and offer a lot of differences in terms of personalities as well as special abilities and weapons, the core Saints Row gameplay is still present, and it means that the gameplay isn't as exhilarating or as exciting as it probably should be, given that you are given a choice of 3 characters to make up a squad, each which have pros and cons and abilities that can bounce off one another. And you get to choose between 3 of them between a cast of 12, and you unlock them over the course of the game by doing missions and their special episodes, which actually can be a lot of fun. And in all honesty, when it comes to missions, they are probably the best part of it. But unfortunately, the missions themselves are kind of dull, maybe for the best part to say it. A lot of the missions take place in the Legion, which is the main bad guy, the group that you are fighting against. A lot of it takes place in Legion layers, and unfortunately they're all incredibly similar looking, these silver metallic underground like maze type areas, and going from one to another it feels like you're in the same place all over again, and it lacks any sort of diversity, which is a huge disappointment given that there's a lot of colourful personalities to this game. And one of the biggest disappointments as well is the fact that you have this crew of 3 out of 12 and the game is completely single player. There is no competitive or cooperative play whatsoever, and that was a huge shock really. When you look at the game and how it's structured and its design, you kind of feel like this is the perfect opportunity for a really fun co-op romp, and it would definitely sort of dissolve some of the tedium involved when going through the missions, but it's not the case, and you've got to do it all alone, and that's kind of disappointing. I think as well the fact that it's in Seoul, South Korea, which, I mean, how many games in the open world do you really get that's not in the US, and they don't do much with it. Like, the futuristic style look is really cool. There's some funny like sort of looks at what the future of cities, of metropolises could look like, and especially given the Asian flair that Seoul could bring, it's just not capitalized upon. It's just not there, and that's quite a missed opportunity given that the core gameplay hasn't changed all that much, and at times it feels like the 12 different characters just offer different weapons that you normally pull up on a wheel, but their special abilities as well as their personalities and their traits. There's a lot of traits here, a lot of ways to upgrade your character and customize them, as well as collecting these crystal shards. The only thing is you can only assign, each character has 3 crystal chances to upgrade, but you don't really need to worry about sort of, oh, who do I designate it to, because it's in abundance to the point where if you really go exploring or doing a lot of side stuff, you've got enough to fill out everyone's, even the characters you don't use. And sort of there is this lack of choice of sort of progression of different strategies and approaches other than picking 3 characters that control the same. And the more I played with them, the more I felt like they didn't fit. Rama in particular is sort of a really cool sort of bow and arrow style play that's powerful bow and arrow, but it's a slow DPS sort of, let's say it's slow to shoot an arrow, and when the game gets extra hectic, especially in the later missions, this character is negligible. There's no need to have this character because they're just not good enough in the scenario, and you kind of feel like not every character was built or every mission was built with every character set up in mind, which means you are kind of pushed down a certain path eventually, and it's rather disappointing. Like, the game overall is flashy, it plays fine, but it definitely lacks any sort of innovation I was expecting from the team, especially moving in a different direction in Saints Row. And the weird thing is like I said, he didn't do a forward step, they did a side step while still holding on to Saints Row, which means you don't sort of get that big gap of not having anything Saints Row related or Saints Row feeling, which means if they come out now with a new Saints Row, it's not going to have as much of an impact unless they drastically change their whole approach, and I think they need to do this. Agents of Mayhem is fun, it's fine, but I mean, you kind of want more, if anything, than it's fun and it's fine. And unfortunately, there's no one aspect of the game that really steps up to the plate. And eventually, within its 20 to 25 hour playtime, I honestly got quite bored of the whole structure of the routine of the rinse and repeat sort of nature that the game nearly feels like it has, like regardless of your choices. And yeah, unfortunately at the end I was a bit disappointed by Agents of Mayhem, even though it's still a fine game.